Are you ready to get down and dirty with me? Stick around for a minute and see how I get stuck in the muck.
Nice boots, y'all. If you've listened to our previous episodes, you know that Jackie, Lee, and I tell it all. We share our experiences, our learnings, and our mistakes to save you some time, money, and pain on your transformation journey. Recently, we've been talking about the muddy messes in our lives as we transform, and particularly these days when everything seems to be uncertain and out of our control. So my question today for you and for my co-hosts is, how do you know when you're stuck in the muck? Why is that sometimes a good thing for you? And when and how do you get out of your own muck? Now, I'm going to start as a farm girl. I understand the value of fertile ground to grow. But I'd like to hear from my co-hosts. So, Jackie, what does stuck in the muck bring to mind for you?
Well, first, let me say, we also bear it all sometimes. So go back to episode 4 if you don't know what I'm talking about. Let me just go in there since we're got our waders on and all kinds of fun stuff. Stuck in the muck. Typically for me, the word that comes up when I think about that is resistance.
Mm,
Some type of resistance that I'm going through. When I feel stuck, I typically ask myself a few questions. What am I avoiding? Why am I avoiding it? And what's it based around? Is it a story from the past that I've made up
yeah.
or maybe experienced and haven't let go of yet? Is it a story for the future that I've made up based on something from the past? Am I feeling unworthy? Am I feeling not good enough? And all of that kind of boils down sometimes to feeling like I don't know enough. And what I figured out after being in the muck in this area for years and years and years, and by the way, we never get it all figured out. We never get it all figured out. We're in the muck with you, and it's life is peaks and valleys and 50-50, and some days you're way out of the muck and thinking, what was up with that? And then the next day you realize, I'm stuck in the muck again. I was doing great yesterday. Today I'm back in the middle of it. So all those pieces that come together of oftentimes that resistance and that avoidance is that little voice saying, do you know enough? Do moving forward, whatever. And I'll get into this a little bit later. And as you ladies know, I've definitely fallen into the information overload with my library card. So a lot of it comes, resistance is the word that comes down to it for me.
Okay, well, we know that muck can be very resistant and actually pull your rubbers right off if you're in there deep enough, right? Okay, Lee, now I know you've got some great boots, so tell us a little bit about what the theme stuck in the muck means to you now and maybe in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because a word that comes up for me in that is this uncomfortable. And I think we're uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And so muck is kind of dirty. It feels like something we're supposed to avoid.
yeah,
And I think part of life is muck. And you just have to be in it sometimes in order
yeah.
to get out of it. Trying to avoid getting in it or ever be in it, I just think is a really frustrating way personally for me to kind of live my life. And so I think on the flip side of that, you got to be in it, but it's that whole idea of how do you not get stuck in it? There's value, and we did this kind of like our field of feels, right? You can't ignore this stuff, or else I think the muck gets deeper and thicker and almost turns into quicksand, and you don't even know it. You don't even know you're getting pulled down into it. And so for me, it's like get comfortable with the muck, and when we're comfortable with it, I think is when, kind of to Jackie's point, like when you just kind of are willing to wade in it, is when you don't have to get stuck in it.
Right. You completely created a visual in my head about quicksand. And, if you've watched any of those old Tarzan movies, or I don't know, Indiana Jones. They always say, if you get into quicksand by accident, don't struggle, right? Don't struggle. Be calm, make slow movements, because the more you struggle, the faster you'll pull yourself down. So that's interesting that that analogy should come up for what we're talking about now, is that when you recognize that you are stuck in the muck, uh, don't fight it. Make, experience it. Take your bearings. Assess the situation, I guess, is the right way to do it, and then choose the actions that will get you out of the muck and to a better place. So, Jackie, take us from there. Give us a stick to pull us out of the muck.
Well, I think a big part of it is, as we've talked about, everything has a lesson. Everything has a lesson for us. I truly believe that life is a journey about lessons and learning and growing and struggling and that transformation and, changing from the cocoon to the butterfly, and in many cases back to the cocoon and then to the next butterfly, and a lot of those type things. And, so much to Lee's point, stop struggling with the struggle, just relax. And as you said, Isabel, it's like quicksand, and that whole picture of what happens, it just drags you further down.
Yeah.
So along the lines of resisting or releasing the resistance of that, it's just really relaxing for a minute and just kind of going inward. You know me, I'm big about thought downloads, intentional thinking, and steering those thoughts that are keeping me churning and burning and struggling in that, to getting those out, getting them on paper, and then taking a look at them and saying, is this true? Is this real? Is any of this valid? And what can I learn from this that serves me to move me forward to whatever the next phase that I'm moving toward, to whatever that struggle is. Lee, I think you summed it up great in terms of what before in a conversation that we had on our mastermind about stress, and it's where you are. But stress is that piece between where you are and where you think you should be or where you want to be, or those type things. And it's a part of it. It's a part of any of the process. I think about, and I'm certainly not any type of scientist, but I think about the analogies of, turning coal into diamonds and steel, and the process, the firing and the things that it goes through before it takes on its ultimate form. And that's really how we are too. So the key is being intentional, stopping, taking, right, doing that thought download. What is this trying to tell me? What can I learn from this? Where am I now? And where do I want to grow to? And calmly and rationally look at it and say, I have the skills to figure it out. And if I don't have it figured out and I'm not sure how to figure it out, it's out there somewhere. If anybody's ever figured it out, I can do it too. And I can ask for help. Big key for women, ask for help to get me there.
Very true. Interesting how many of our previous episodes are also showing up in this conversation, because I was thinking, Jackie, of your gifts from the pandemic, which was recently discussed, and one of them was just relaxing the grip, right? Relax the grip. We can't control some things, so be there. I'm very keen to talk, Lee, about what you brought up the other day in our mastermind, and that was that muck is kind of the stress between who you think you are and who you want to be. And we love to refer to you as our oozing girl right now. So let our audience benefit, if you will, from some of the oozing and processing you've been doing in your muck.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. And years ago, I had explained to you ladies that I had gone through a type of training that talked about workplace stress was basically defined
Yep.
as the distance between how I would handle a situation in the workplace and how it was expected I handle it. So, and that concept has just really resonated with me throughout my life. And this oozing time frame, I've really been like, well, why? What's so feels so relevant about that? And as I've been on this journey to kind of figure out who I am, like the I am in that. And I think there is this we know who we are deep down. And as I said, I think sometimes life, the muck, pulls us away from that. And I think that for me, how I'm starting to think about stress or unhappiness or those types of things, or that distance of how far, I get pulled away from that knowing of who I am. And so for me, the muck is a way to say, whoa, I have to, like Jackie said, man, I have to sit in this. I have to think about this. I have to be with this, because that muck is the signal to me that I'm pulling away in some way from who I really am, who I really want to be. And so for me, that muck is like, but we tend to, and we've talked about this, like, no, we're supposed to be happy. We're supposed to be good. We're not supposed to have that stuff. And to me, those are all just further stressors that are adding actually muck into the swamp, and instead of just being in it.
Yeah, something's wrong with me for feeling this way, right?
Absolutely. And I think, maybe we talked about this in the episode about secrets, that as girls, we were told that, we were supposed to be grateful and beautiful and prepared and quiet and thoughtful. And I certainly learned that I was supposed to be grateful all the time for what I had, because those poor children over there didn't. And so being restless in my muck connotated being ungrateful for what I had. And I think that prevailing theme is even more obvious as I get older. Yeah,
Well, I think it lends to what we're going through right now with the pandemic and closures and unclosures and reclosures and all the different things. I mean, I look at myself, and I'm pretty much a homebody. I really truly am. I can nestle down and be super happy in my house and not leave it for a week and be good. But there's something about knowing that I can't or shouldn't that has created this resistance in me, and a frustration and a anxiety and a lot of different things like that. And then just to your point, Isabel, and we've all talked about this, the three of us, then I feel guilty about feeling sorry for myself even though, if the truth be told, I probably wouldn't go anywhere anyway. Like, I probably, day to day, week to week, my life hasn't really changed that much, but just knowing it. Of course, I had like 5 trips canceled for 2020, which was unfortunate, but it is what it is. But again, it's like, wow, well, based on what other people are going through, should I really be feeling sad and, poor me? But your worst is your worst, and stress is stress, and sadness is sadness, and disappointment is disappointment. So I think the key is to give ourselves that time and that grace and that self-compassion to be okay with that and not feel guilty and not beat ourselves up. And in feeling that way, it doesn't take anything away from anything that we feel for anyone else. Anyone else's challenges, struggles, hardships, having that time for ourselves takes absolutely nothing away from them. And that was a big aha moment for me, realizing that I could hold the space for myself and hold the space for lots of others as well.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, Jackie. And I think we get in this mode of where we have to pick and choose and rank and rate. And we've talked about this in some of our other episodes about our physical appearance, right? But there's something about that. Well, if I have empathy and compassion for this, then I'm choosing that over this. And what's that saying? Last time I checked, empathy and compassion are not pie. They don't run out. There's enough slices for everybody, right? It's an infinite pie. But I think we do, and maybe that's that scarcity mindset that we get when we don't have that kind of abundance. And I think sometimes we think about abundance, about wealth or this or that, but just that it permeates us. So all of a sudden you go, well, if I have compassion and empathy for myself, then I only have so much. and if I have it for this movement or for these people that experience that or this, then somehow I have to not have it for somebody else. And that, I think, is a real loop that we put ourselves through on everything. And it's that to me is real scarcity mindset.
I love that. Thank you for that reminder, Lee, that compassion and empathy are not pie. Yeah, I think
See a new hashtag coming.
I
It's
think
not
there's a
that.
hash. Yeah. There's enough
Unless you
pie.
talk about the mathematical pi, because it's 0.141414 for infinity, but
Right.
cherry pie, no, we're good.
It's
Yeah.
outside my pay grade.
Rhubarb pie, whatever pie we want to have. That flashes me to one of my favorite scenes in the movie with, oh gosh, now I'm going to think Michael, the angel, Mark Angel, John Travolta
Yeah.
played, and there's this scene with Allie, what's her name, and she sings a song about pies, and I just makes me hungry thinking about it. So
I
there you
thought
go.
you were going to bring up Cuba Gooding Jr. in radio when he says, "Where's my pie?"
No,
That's where
but
my mind went.
you can bring up Cuba Gooding Jr. anytime you want,
Yes, I
pie or
can.
no pie. Yes. Okay, so for we talked about pie is a good thing. Muck can be a very good thing if we're aware of that and we recognize that it is an opportunity to maybe slow down a little bit and stop struggling and think about why is this resistance showing up? Resistance, aka in the form of muck, has got our boots stuck in the ground, and using that as an opportunity really for self-reflection before we bounce on to the next thing. And I really appreciate the thought, Lee, of that the resistance is coming from where we are right now isn't true to who we are or who we want to become and how to get there. So each of you, if you would, can you give me a couple of tips to share with our audience on what do you do? Like, okay, what are the sticks? Okay, so Jackie.
Yeah, I have a favorite quote by Steve Jobs, and I have a card that sits on my desk to remind,
Oh,
and it's connecting the dots. And I'll just quickly read it. It's a quote that he did at a graduation, a commencement. And
yay.
this is so true. And every time I feel super flustered, I read this and I remind myself of this. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. This approach has never let me down, and it has made all the difference in my life. And it's so true. We want to always be in that place of looking forward and thinking, this step, this step, this step takes me to this step. But the reality of it is, when you stop, even now, if you stop in this exact moment that you're in and you look back and you think of something that at the time you felt was the worst thing that it could ever happen to you, or just a bad thing, maybe not the worst thing, but you can look back over experiences that at the time made no sense. You felt that they weren't fair.
Right.
You felt that they changed the trajectory of your life, and they did, or whatever. If you really stop for a moment and find the good, find the silver lining, find the gratitude in that, find the lesson, you'll see that you can connect that dot to where you are today, and you wouldn't be here today, and you wouldn't have many things that you have that you would never trade had you not had that experience.
So true. All right, Lee, how about some muckraking from you?
First, this goes back to Jackie's kind of, talk about resistance. And one of the most incredible things that I've done, and I do it now when there's something that's, ooh, that's not comfortable. So for me, and this is a way to think about it, what would be the worst thing anyone could say about you, and put it out on Facebook?
Ooh,
For me, incompetent is a word that I was
yeah.
really uncomfortable with. Now I'm far more comfortable with it now after doing this exercise, which is take that thing, because that's resistance, right? You're just like, no, that can't be me. No one can ever say that. And just go, okay, write it out. How am I incompetent? Just take your worst fear and really face it. Because I think we make everything bigger. And one of the
Yeah.
big values of that exercise was going through and saying, wow, there's tons of things I'm incompetent in.
Yeah.
Physics, that pi 3 point, that's all I got. 1.14. That's it. That's all that's coming up from memory. F equals ma. That's all I got from physics. So, and I just listed out things that I'm incompetent at, and like, yeah, and owned it. There are tons of things I'm incompetent at. This has nothing to do with my value or the things that I'm good at. And also, by being incompetent, you can flip it and start to say, what are the good things about? Well, I can be curious. I keep a desire to learn.
I
Guess
like
what? I'm
that.
probably not very arrogant if I recognize that I'm incompetent, because I don't need to know it all. I don't need to be it all. Like, wow, being incompetent felt pretty good after that exercise. And it didn't have that, oh, what if somebody finds out that I'm incompetent? So um, that's one. And the other I would say is when you get in that, I really like visual pattern interrupts. I'm a very visual person, and I like make little movies in my head. So that's just kind of how I process a lot of things. And when you were talking, Isabel, I was just thinking about one of our biggest luxuries is just to be in the moment, and our minds don't make that easy for us. And so when you're feeling that, like, just picture squeezing that mud through your toes, like you'd almost be a little kid. Remember, we used to make mud pies and
Yeah.
set them all out, and we would actually pretend to sell them and like play with it and feel the coolness on our hands, and just, get that picture of muck being okay, being comfortable, and enjoying it for the minute and just being in it for the moment. So that's what I have.
Like it.
Loved the mud pies, continuing on our pie theme here. And totally, you took me right back to a childhood time where, yeah, anything was possible with water and mud. Absolutely. Well, I am so grateful that when I am in the muck, which seems to happen with pretty frequent consistency, but then I know that I'm growing because it's happening. If I'm static, then I'm not growing and I'm not transforming into the next and best edition of me. But when I am stuck in there, sometimes I do. I want to struggle and I start sinking in that quicksand. I reach out for vitamin G, which you both know for me is the life force. For me, vitamin G is for girlfriends, because I find that sometimes I can just babble in my head and tell myself a story that is so not true. And I'm shoveling more muck on my head as I'm telling myself those stories. But when I reach out to my girlfriends, my trusted close posse, like you two, and I tell the story that's playing in my head, you help me to dial the lens in and really see what's going on, not my distorted perception of it, and see the value of being there and the path forward. So that would be the stick I'm offering to our audience, that you don't have to get out of the muck by yourself. In fact, it's hilariously fun sometimes if you just get all muddy with your best friends, right? All right. Well, thank you again for sharing your wisdom, my marvelous co-hosts. I think I forgot to mention at the beginning, I'm Isabel Banerjee, the CEO and founder of the Encore Catalyst, and I'm delighted that we can come to you every week and share our experience on transformation. So just in closing, remember, when you're in the muck, invite your friends to come on in with you. And thank you for taking this journey with us. If you have questions, comments, suggestions for other topics for us to get down and dirty on for you, please leave them in the comments below and you'll hear from us. Also, support us, if you will, by subscribing to our YouTube channel, Transformation Decoded, and joining us on our Facebook page. And we'll put the link in the comments below this episode. So until next week, get your boots on and get out there and splash in the puddles.
And remember, embrace the suck and embrace the muck. That's another hashtag.
Hashtag embrace the suck. Yeah, I'm going to get a shirt with that for sure. All right. Bye for now, all.
Bye.
Bye.